Hello there, everybody. This is Alex from Hardcoring Guides, bringing my guide for Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge on Master Ninja difficulty. Today we're doing day 2, and starting off, we now have allocated the bow. We have now acquired the bow. So this part you can do no damage relatively simply. It's just I took damage because I'm kind of dumb like that. But basically, you just dash around. When it comes to rockets, I usually just dash and then shoot a bow. And same thing with this fight right here, too, is I usually just, after I shoot a bow, I usually just jump, or dash jump after. And then sometimes, every once in a while, I might do like a jumping strike. There was one point in time when I was able to do this with no damage, but as you can see, I did kind of fail that again. Now, when it comes to defeating motorcycles, it's a lot harder to defeat than just a regular normal enemy. Mainly because they tend to just have a really weird pattern, but the thing that I found the most common with them is they tend to kind of just circle around you instead of just, you know, go straight toward you sometimes. Sometimes they will do that, sometimes they don't. But if you could try to, like, stay in the middle and not try to get, you know, next to walls or something, and just keep dashing around and keep shooting, you should be fine. There's also another technique that you can unlock, which is the ability to aim while in air, and that slows down time. You could use that to your advantage if you want. And starting off this next segment, of course, as you saw earlier, there was an enemy that came out of the ground. It was an assassin. He came out and he attacked me, but I got a free Steel on Bone. Essentially just, you know, dodge, press triangle. There you go. Easy enough. And now we're going to deal with these guys. So this part's pretty interesting because this one's kind of a multi-wave fight. And as you can see, a rocket guy spawns. So after you kill off a few of enemies, make sure you keep your eye on that first rocket guy right there. Just blast him, you know, whenever you get the chance, whenever you get the opportunity to, because like I said in the last video, they are pretty much, in my opinion, priority number 1 when it comes to these fights, unless somebody needs to get OT'd and I can just get some iframes off. But typically, a lot of the time, I tend to just do that. Now, something else I wanted to mention real quick is if you want to get away from enemies, Flying Swallow does kind of work to kind of just go through like some of these more basic desert versions of these enemies. These are just the regular ground troops, nothing special. Combined with, you know, of course, assassins. Now, the trick to beating assassins, there's a combo that I tend to kind of use quite often, and that's the square-square-triangle move, which should be acquired by now, I believe so. I should be able to have it because I do have level 2 sword at this point, unless I eventually upgrade to it. Well, whatever the case, there is a move that allows you to do like square, and then triangles. Like right there. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the move that I tend to kind of like doing a lot. Just because eventually once you start upgrading to level 2, level 3 and such, you're going to get some really powerful combo moves with that, and that's kind of the one I just end up sticking with. Anyway, so something else I forgot to mention, but I meant to mention in the last video, and also real quick, just jump down and just instantly hold for UT. That guy, you know, unfortunately backed off from my attack, but that's okay. And the thing with getting Steel on Bones to kind of like be even more manipulative is to charge a UT, and sometimes they just end up running toward you, and then they'll just try to like do an unblockable red attack, and that's, you know, a time when you just kind of let go. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, you know, every once in a while. That's usually why you see me kind of let go of my UT charge whenever like a group of enemies comes up toward me, is because I'm usually trying to just see if I can potentially get that predictable attack to come out and see if I can hit him with it. Typically, a lot of the time, ground soldiers and usually sometimes heavy soldiers end up doing that, kind of falling for that little trick. Assassins, not as much. Assassins are just a little bit more irritating to deal with because of the fact that they just tend to not do Steel on Bone as much. And even when they do it, it's kind of hard to kind of just attack in general because, you know, it's such a weird, janky move anyway. I wouldn't say janky, but it's definitely a really obscure attack. So, coming up these stairs after you finish out that first wave, however you do so, you're going to be, you know, greeted by another assassin, take him out. Basically, just dodge back, take him out, run up here, shoot this guy, easy enough. And save your Nimpo. As much as you might probably want to use it, just save your Nimpo. And starting off from here, you want to get that first bow shot under that guy immediately after you get a clear shot at him because, of course, he is a flurry rocket guy, and you really want to take him out before he does damage to you. And then once upon coming down here, try to get a charged UT in. And Fiends are kind of another interesting case of Steel on Bone attacks because what makes them more fun is the fact that as soon as you see one go underground, that's usually a good sign that they're probably going to try to go for a Steel on Bone attack. So make sure you watch out for that. Just always, when it comes to fighting fiends, just keep dodging them. Don't even worry about like trying to engage them with normal combos if you don't feel safe. If you're confident enough in your skills, go right for it. Because I mean, I'm relatively confident myself, so that's why I tend to kind of do it. Now, getting UTs off of a fiend group is also kind of hard because they do tend to kind of be somewhat a little bit more aggressive and faster than normal enemies seem to end up being. But for the most part, they are typically pretty lightweight, and even if they do get toward you, you could just, you know, do a nice little combo on one or two of them and get them off you pretty fast. But again, fiends are pretty aggressive, so I typically don't recommend doing a UT on them unless you can get one off. But most of the time, I just recommend, you know, dodging and running away as fast as you possibly can to get to the point where you can essentially get a Steel on Bone attack to come out. So next up, of course, you're going to have two assassins up here, and uppercut moves work wonders in this game, as you could probably no doubt tell from the last, you know, video if you happen to have watched that one by any means. When it comes to like dogs especially, the uppercut, that's what I'm basically call it, the square triangle into air move, is really good against just regular enemies anyway, because, well, one, they can't block you in air, and two, they just take a lot of damage regardless. So this next segment is going to be very, very hard, and it's going to be very hard for a lot of reasons because it just continues to go on. So the first thing I do is, after I do my Falcon Dive, I jump over the sandbag and immediately just go for a instant bow shot on the first rocket guy. So the key trick to beating this fight is to always consistently dodge, because rockets are just the most apparent thing you're going to have to deal with here. And you're going to want to do a lot of pop shots on enemies. Now, the fun thing about the bow is you can just shoot the bow at normal enemies and just do some damage that way if you wanted to. Or you can do what I do and just essentially just run away, maybe charge a UT, maybe try to get like a Steel on Bone to come out. Or just whatever the case, whatever you, again, feel comfortable doing, you know, combo-wise or whatever, how you feel. But typically, a lot of the time, you want to just make sure you know exactly when and where these rocket enemies spawn. Now, typically, you'll know they spawn because you'll hear those, you'll hear them and you'll see them, like that guy that just dropped right in the background. He usually drops with a second guy, and that's typically a good chance to kind of just, you know, get a couple of pop shots and go for that. And can I just say real quick, while I have the chance, I love this game sometimes. Sometimes it's shit, but sometimes I really love it. I think it's a pretty good Ninja Gaiden game, all things considered. So next up, of course, is rockets again. Now, you could use your Nimpo for this part if you're starting to struggle, if you wish, but I would still also say recommend saving it up just in case, because there's a helicopter section in this game. There's a couple of helicopters in this particular chapter in general, and I want to kind of just save my Nimpo for those segments. So that's why I'm just kind of just doing this. And again, I'm just doing the same trick I did last time, where I'm pretty much just dodging and then shoot, dodging and then shoot, dodging and then shoot. And then after you take out the next wave of vehicle enemies, motorcycle enemies, you're gonna have to deal with even more enemies again, because this game just does not let up. And that is where day 2 becomes really, really damn hard. But after day 2, everything kind of starts to slow down a little bit in terms of difficulty, but then it picks up near the end of the final chapters. So for now, you know, this is definitely going to be one of, if probably not the hardest day that you're going to have to deal with, especially early on, because you don't have a lot of upgrades and stuff. And once again, you know, Rocket Guy does spawn, but you do have an exit out of here, and I believe you can take it if you feel threatened by the enemies. I wouldn't recommend taking it just for the sake of, like, you know, getting the time bonus, getting the karma bonus stuff in general, just getting the extra points, so that way I can kind of just spend them appropriately on certain things. And yeah, just make sure you jump there so you don't fall down again. But that is a shortcut back up if you do happen to fail. And when it comes to health, if you happen to lose a lot of health in that segment, then you'll definitely get it back, because thank goodness for, you know, the saves in this game that allow you to have that. This guy was supposed to get shot, but I completely forgot about him existing. And I kind of thought he was just going to disappear when I did that, but that did not happen, so I lost some points. That's fine, who cares? It's all good and dandy. I don't really care enough. This next area, I like to call this the Dark Souls 3 area, because for some reason it gives me like Dark Souls 3 vibes in terms of like the first area with that hallway. At least that's what I remembered. But Ghost, pretty much just treat them the same way that I normally do. And I'm not going to go over and re-explain everything I explained in the last chapter. I know that's very unprofessional, but I've explained it a million times. But essentially the way it works is I essentially just charge UT and just, you know, wait to see a camera movement to launch my UT to see if they are around me. So coming up next, we're going to be introduced to the first of the white-robed alchemists. These ones are a little bit, somewhat more tanky than black-robed, it seems. And the trick I do against them you know, as normal, is, of course, I run away and I charge a UT. And the fun thing about charging UT against these guys is, as you can see, I essentially just do a simple dash jump away from them. And the reason why I'm doing just one dash jump into a UT is because of that move right there, where they're starting to stick their arms in the ground. And I'm trying to get that to kind of come out, so that way I can attack them with my UT, and they can be close enough to me. And even if they're not close to you while after you do a dash jump, that's perfectly fine, because a lot of time, sometimes, well, I say a lot of time and then I say sometimes, sometimes they will end up being a little bit more aggressive and try to chase you down and try to go for a grab attack. And that's a good time as any to kind of just let go for your UT. I wouldn't worry too much about trying to break them out of their magic attacks. If you need to, that's fine, you can. You don't have to, but it's something that's definitely there that you could potentially just, do if you wish. But for me personally, I just kind of just don't bother and just go for UTs. There is something else that you can do to these enemies. Oh, also right there, when you're about to get grabbed, if you're charging UT, you can just let go of triangle, and you pretty much just avoid the entire grab. It's ridiculous. But the thing is, there's a specific combo in this game that, again, I do learn later, which is, of course, a square, square, triangle, triangle move. Multi-triangle hit attack that does like a spinning attack, if you guys know what I'm talking about. And it is such a good technique to start chopping away limbs, because the thing is, like, UTs are supposed to do a lot of damage. All right, now I get level 2, so now I get the extra upgraded combo. And now I also get a level 2 charge too, which is great for UTs. But yeah, there's a combo that I just now bought, and it is relatively decent against these types of enemies, because like I said, UTs are supposed to do more damage than normal combos. At least that's what I've always been kind of, not necessarily told, but that's something I kind of figured out myself. I ended up using Nimpo there because I was losing health, and I didn't want to have to buy health for it. So, again, going back, if you weren't playing along during this, then you could use a Nimpo at that other segment if you wished to do that. Also, that guy just exploded. That's pretty much rare at this point. You could use Nimpo on that section with the motorcycle guys if you wish. That's perfectly on you. But for me personally, after this specific fight, you need to save your Nimpo bad, because we're going to get to some parts that are going to get really tough. So yeah, you saw that combo I just did right there, right here, the square, square, triangle attack. And that's the one I'm talking about that eventually does pretty good damage. I think that move right there, I think it's dodge into triangle. It's either dodge into triangle, dodge into square, but if you know that combo, you'll have to do some training and figure that one out, because I don't know exactly the inputs off the top of my head. It's one of those cases if I'd have to play the game again to kind of get that to go through my head. And even then, still, I still don't really remember exactly how to get it all the time, because it seems to be one of those things where I just randomly do it and I'm like, okay, cool. But so I'm sorry about that, but still. But yeah, now having level 2 Dragon Sword, I can now finally do a second UT charge, which is very helpful, and it does quite a little bit of damage and does a little bit more AoE attack too. And also something I want to mention real quick, I will be using the Lunar Staff at the very end of the game, but only really just for the final boss. And I'll have probably a level 1, maybe. I have to go back and do some research on that to figure out what level it was, but I do end up leveling up, I think, level 2 or so by the end game. But I'm not going to use the Lunar Staff as much. I will tell you certain areas that do make some parts of the game a little bit easier if you do have it, but I'm not going to be using it. I'm mostly going to be using Dragon Sword throughout most of the game until we get to a certain point when I'm going to start upgrading my scythe and just start buying the scythe out and start using that. So next section, I don't even know why I bought some of the things that I bought. I don't really even use them anyway, but you save up your money, buy what you want, I guess. This next area is also a little tricky, and I ended up actually having to restart the checkpoint. I had to load my save so I can get that perfect kill right there. There was no reason to do it, but that first Steel On Bone attack, that's what I pretty much restarted for. So this part's really difficult because you're grouped up by a bunch of enemies, and on top of that, you also have the guys up on the balconies up here that are just basically launching fireballs at you. And my suggestion for this is just to continuously run away, get as far away from the Black Spider Clan ninjas and the regular, dual sword ninjas. They're pretty much all Black Spider Clan, but now they're just coded in a different outfit. My personal opinion is just essentially just get as far away as you can, go from one side of the room to the other, and either try to bait out Steel On Bones, or at the very least, oh yeah, we also have now Azuna Drop. So Azuna Drop the guys in green. That's something that I would recommend. If you can get a Black Spider Clan to get Uzuno drop, that's great too, but they tend to block a lot of your attacks, so that's something I usually don't try to go for. Yeah, the regular green outfit guys tend to block too, but not nearly as much. So yeah, just run across the room and then either try to bait out a Steel on Bone or just bait out a UT charge. That's my honest to God recommendation for that. And this, whenever you get the chance, if you're not surrounded by enemies, just go for a bow shot on one of the guys up there. And if you happen to miss your bow shot, that's fine. Recover, go across the room again, and just basically just keep doing that. Keep going across the room. So this next section, once these enemies spawn, you're going to want to run back after the door opens and then charge a UT just to kind of, you know, get some attacks in. And then once you clear out a couple of the enemies and, you know, do whatever you want to the mages, because let's be honest, mages in this game, the regular mages themselves, suck ass. They are nothing compared to what they were in Ninja Gaiden 2. They are deadly as fuck in Ninja Gaiden 2. But here, no, they're shit. They're absolute garbage. And also, no Momoji, so that's great. I mean, granted, she is playable, but still, she's not forced on you, so that's also great. So coming in this next room, these guys are going to be using fire arrows at the beginning, but once you start getting close to them, that's when they're changed to their swords. And Uzuno drop works wonders. Flying Swallow, just basically heavy attacks, just to kind of de-lum them and just get some OTs. For the most part, these guys are pretty much easy. They're just kind of like cannon fodder, if they're not surrounded with other enemies that make them much more harder. Because a lot of the time, these are the types of enemies that just tend to be kind of just, you know, like second-tier fodder practically. Because like first fodder is just the regular guys, like the regular troop guys. You know the ones, but after that, yeah. So coming up next, there's going to be a helicopter. There's a couple ways of doing this. Nimpo, you know, you can use, but I wouldn't recommend using it just yet. I'd say wait until the second phase, once we go upstairs. And there's a little fun thing here that kind of works, and it's with the bow. And if you hug yourself to the wall, sometimes he actually misses. Also, try to aim for the sides of the rockets here, where the rockets are coming from. You can shoot it in the nose, but I'd recommend just shooting from the rockets. And something to really get down is understanding the pattern of when he shoots rockets and when he shoots machine gun, because there is a pattern to it. Learn that pattern, and that will help you out big time. So upon coming to this next area, I'm going to do pretty much kind of what I did in that other room, where I'm just going to run, and I'm going to charge UT when I get just enough distance between me and the enemy. And the thing that sucks about this part, though, is you're pretty much just stuck having to deal with a ton of heavies and assassins, and then after you've dealt with like a couple of them, like a few of them, regardless of which archetype you dealt with, they're going to start spawning in the helicopter. And that's when, after the helicopter spawns in, you're going to want to use your Nimpo to kind of try to shoot down the helicopter, or at least do damage on him. But yeah, if you hug the wall while shooting with arrows, the helicopter tends to sometimes kind of miss, especially machine gun shots, because they can't shoot through it. And dealing with the other enemies kind of sucks too, but that's okay, because again, when it comes to, once the helicopter spawns, after I do my Nimpo, I'm just going to hug the wall. I'm not going to bother with the enemies. I'm just going to essentially run across the wall. If the enemies start grouping up on me and getting too close, I run straight to the other side of the wall and just start shooting arrows at the helicopter. The helicopter should be priority number one, and use Nimpo whenever you get the chance. Which Nimpo can be used, well, pretty much almost at any time, practically, but when you feel like you're good enough and you're capable of using it, make sure you aim it at the helicopter too. Don't try to miss it, because that wouldn't be good. Also, fun thing about OTs, though, which by now, you know, if you play Master Ninja mode, you probably know this already, of course, is that if an enemy is dead, say you decap an enemy, there are times where you can still OT after it, so just kind of give yourself a breather. I would always recommend going for OTs as much as you possibly can, just for the sake of having that breathing room, because this game is very aggressive with its enemies, and it is just incredibly so. I would argue that I think this is probably the most aggressive of the Ninja Gaiden games, and this might come off as heresy, but I'd say it's probably the most hardest of the Ninja Gaidens of the reboot series, in my own opinion. I mean, okay, not counting Yaiba, I would say out of the original 3, not counting Vanilla 3, and not counting, like, say, Black, or not counting, like, basically, fuck, I had to count Black, because I've never played Black, so I don't know. I hear people say it's harder, I hear people say it's not, I don't know. So, in my personal opinion, from the Sigmas that I've played the first 2 Sigmas, I've played Vanilla 3, and I've played this, I would say Razor's Edge is the most aggressive and probably the hardest of them. But, at the same time, the Steel on Bone just almost completely just defeats most of that as well. It's really kind of hard to say, because Momoji is just incredibly ridiculous in Chapter 5 for Ninja Gaiden 2. If anything, okay, you know what? I'll take that back. I'll say this. Before anybody gets mad at me in the comments, I'll say this. I think Ninja Gaiden 2 is probably maybe the hardest, if not maybe... Oh, goddamn, but there's also Ninja Gaiden 1 with Alma, too. But see, that's the thing, though. Like, that's specific bullshit that... maybe Ninja Gaiden 1 is probably the hardest. But enemy-wise, I think I would say enemies in this game are a lot more aggressive than they were in the original 2. How about that? Does that make sense? I would... Yeah, okay. I take back what I said. I would say Ninja Gaiden 1 is probably still the hardest, but at the very least... this one's definitely a champion for being kind of hard, just because of the, the janky bullshit. Also, I'm not going to commentate this part that well, mainly just because of the fact this is, once again, just a way to get Nimpo back and trying to build up Nimpo. And not only that, I'm just basically just doing this to, again, grind karma points, and on top of that, just get health back, like full health, even though I already had a save checkpoint, but that's fine. Next part, though, you're going to want to have Nimpo for. You're gonna want to do this as much as you can to get Nimpo. Granted, though, if you do die and have to restart, if you do restart it, it does, I think, reset your Nimpo back, so you're going to have to get all that again, but that's okay. As long as you have Nimpo for the helicopter on the train section, then you're A-okay. So first enemy's going to spawn, and of course he's just going to be a jackass that spawns right on the train, but for the most part, even though he's just a simple jetpack guy, he's relatively easy to take out with combos, and these guys only take like 2 shots. But as you can see, by now you've probably already mastered the ability of the bow anyway. So if you're doing Master Ninja mode, you probably already know how to do all this bow trick shot shit. I wouldn't even call it trick shots. They're just literally just dash and then tap, dash and then tap. But after you kill off a few of the jetpack guys, they're going to start, sending on the Black Spider Clan SMG enemies. And that's when you're going to want to start taking priority of these guys just a little bit more. However, I still think, I would also still suggest that the jetpack guys do take priority number 1. But if you can get away from these guys, like run from one side of the train to the other and then just start shooting off rockets toward the jetpack guys, that would definitely help. But if they get too overwhelming, then just start doing combos on them. Because for the most part, they don't tend to block your attacks nearly as much as I would ever think they would. They especially block your shit in Ultimate Ninja, I can tell you that straight up. I tried Ultimate Ninja, that shit's hard. But yeah, it's a lot harder because enemies are a lot more aggressive and a lot more defensive too. It's just insane. And on top of that, they suck. They spawn more enemies. So this is a fun little thing that I found out doing this. I didn't watch a guide or anything on this. I just found it myself. So it's probably a thing that's been done before. But you can cheese this fight by doing this. Yeah, just stand in this very corner and then just aim in and just continuously shoot down the helicopter, and there you go. It's fun. Oh, wait. Okay, actually, hold on. I want to say something real quick. I keep forgetting when I'm using my Nimpo, so I do apologize for that, because I'm kind of scattered-brained when it comes to it, but I'm basically saving my Nimpo for this next helicopter section. So I do want to revert back and say, I wish I could just do my commentary over again, actually, come to think of it. I do want to revert back and say this. Try not to use your Nimpo on that helicopter section. As you can see, I did do the cheese, and it didn't work out well. But actually, okay, you know what? I take that back, because there is a blood section that comes up soon, so you can get your Nimpo back fairly easy. So you can use your Nimpo if you want on those Black Spider Clan ninjas or whatever. So train, you can use Nimpo on if you want, because once you get to this part, you're going to start building up more Nimpo again, and also just go for Steel on Bones to get your Nimpo back even faster. That's something else to kind of keep in mind. Also, I love when these guys spawn, because they're so much fun to fight. This game is so much fun to play when it just plays well. When you're not stuck doing with jank shit, it's so much fun. After you kill off a few enemies, of course, there's going to be a rocket guy that spawns in, and just kind of keep an eye on him. Just understand when and where and how many enemies it takes to kind of kill him off. It's like a good... I usually just kind of have a good 5 or 6 enemies. Normally, that tends to just be the magic number that usually kind of spawns them in. 4, 5, 6, or whatever. Or hell, even 3 a lot of the time. So just keep that in mind. After like 3 enemies, just kind of like keep your awareness up and just see if you can possibly, detect other rocket enemies that might spawn around. But yeah, this is another case of when the bow came in real good handy, because it allowed me to start getting my Bloody Rage. And again, I can't specify exactly when, how, and where Bloody Rage necessarily works, and if there's any tricks I can give you to get Bloody Rage faster. Because typically a lot of the time, I just end up just doing Steel on Bones, and that usually just kind of activates it. And then every once in a while, as you can see, I usually get bow shots, just really fast, quick bow shots, and it just kind of activates that way too. So it's just really kind of just a crapshoot at that point. But typically, Steel on Bone is usually something that seems to always work. But again, if you did use Nimpo on the train section, that's fine, because now we're going to go into this blood grip of murder section. I'll just call it that, grip of murder. And now you can get your Nimpo back. And this is also good training as well to kind of just learn Steel on Bone attacks and when to kind of use them. The enemies typically do a lot of them. And something I want to go ahead and say real fast is the enemies you want to bait into Steel on Bone is these guys right here, these normal ground enemies. Especially if they're around assassins, the guys with the daggers, because after you get a Steel on Bone, you kind of want to aim your stick, your analog stick, toward the assassin so that way you can get him killed. Also in Ultimate Ninja mode, they added a thing where if you go to Steel on Bone and assassin, they'll actually block your attack and you have to mash to get the Steel on Bone to work. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff in Ultimate Ninja, but goddamn does it suck. it's painful. I can tell you that. It's fun, but it's painful as shit. So yeah, again, you know, this is relatively simple and straightforward. You just Steel on Bone. I did die a couple of times because I'm kind of dumb. OTs also get your health back too, and this is, I think, the first time we ever got to do this section in this game. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I just tend to kind of bait out the regular enemies. Also, when enemies are delimbed, that's another time when they start to do their rage attack, the red attack. That's usually a good time for them to start launching it out. That's a good way to kind of figure it out. So if you delimb them, especially if you delimb their legs, that's usually a good opportunity that they're going to do it. So, all right, next section. This is another fun little spot. I'm not saying that ironically either. I think it's kind of a fun little spot to get double S on. And this is when I think I start maybe possibly not buying anything. Also, I will be buying the Kusarigama later, but not right now. But so just keep up with that. Keep up with my guide, and you'll find out when I shoot it. So immediately upon coming in this area, just start pestering the first two guys that are not jetpack guys, and then immediately just start shooting at the jetpack guy. And they do kind of fly around randomly, so you kind of have to just know where they're at. But you can get double S relatively easily if you just keep mashing L2 and then hoping to kind of get your shots in. So this next part, run up to where the enemies start to kind of spawn in and immediately just charge up a level 2 UT. Because by now, if you were following along with me, you might have upgraded to level 2 Dragon Sword or level 1. It doesn't really matter. But for the most part, you want to get a UT because, you know, it definitely kind of helps. But yeah, Dragon Sword upgrades are kind of just my thing. I'm going to be basically prioritizing. And after you've killed off most of the heavies, eventually this guy will spawn, and you want to launch your Nimpo immediately at the helicopter to completely finish it off, because this fight would be very, very, very difficult having to deal with that asshole there. And of course, just like normal, I tend to kind of just do the same thing I do all the time and just run away, either try to bait out, you know, my Steel on Bone attack, or I just bait out UT charges. Because again, you know, when you run away, enemies take kind of a while to start to kind of catch up to you, so that's usually a good time to, you know, get from one side of the field to the other and just kind of do a UT. And of course, you know, Izuna drop whenever you feel like you want to do it. That's of course, you know, something that's up to you, because typically it works wonders. Heavies though are kind of a little harder to get out, but of course that's where heavy attacks usually kind of come into play to kind of break guards. So just keep that in mind as well. And then after that, we're now going to be heading into the boss fight of day 2. This is the giant helicopter. I think it's called a Manta, I think it's called. So the idea with this is just ignore the machine gun fire, who gives a shit, and dodge underneath every time he attacks. And whenever you see those jets starting to light up, that's a good time to shoot your bow at it. And I usually just kind of let auto-aim just take its course. Usually I try to make sure I try to manually aim, but it's kind of hard to do that. So I just usually just let auto-aim do whatever it needs to. But this is where my guidemanship is not going to come in handy, because I'm going to be honest with you folks, I don't know how to deal with these fucking things that well. I usually just go for triangle attacks. I usually just do like a few squares, maybe a couple triangles, and then just block and then dodge and wait for him to stop shooting, and that's usually a good chance to do it. If you do happen to have Nimpo built up by this time, I would also recommend saving it up for much later in this fight, just because things are getting dangerous. But then again, building up Nimpo in this fight particularly is kind of hard, because there's not a lot of segments where you can really just start getting it to build. It's really kind of tough, so most likely, if you use the Nimpo on the helicopter like I did, then you probably don't have it. Also, with that laser shot, just dodge from like left to right, and try not to go through the middle of it. You know, try not to go through the lasers unless you're confident in your skills. And then also for these, you know, flying missiles that kind of come down, just essentially, they're pretty much kind of somewhat easy to kind of evade, especially if you're on Master Ninja mode. You've done this shit before, you know what you're doing. So yeah. When it comes to just the regular Manta fight itself, it's not that bad. It's just afterward, when you start spawning in the jetpack guys, is when things get kind of hard. So, Flying Swallow is also something that I figured out I could do there. And this next little spot, essentially, you're just waiting for the thing to kind of shoot. Whenever it starts to glow, is usually a good sign that's pretty much just reloading. It's about to shoot you down, so. But the worst part is, now we're going to deal with jetpack enemies. So, now I'm going to prioritize them, and I'm going to be getting a health upgrade. I'm going to get level 2 health upgrade, like right now, because I need it pretty bad. So whenever you're starting to suffer in this fight, I would recommend you know, getting level 2 upgraded now. But yeah, the thing is with this, I would recommend prioritizing, you know, hitting the turret instead of fighting off the jetpack guys, because, you know, yes, the jetpack guys are dangerous, but there are times where they just won't shoot you while you're attacking the turret. It's really weird. It's really bizarre, and that's what I mean by jank. It's really fucking weird. So, coming up next, of course, this is where things are going to get a lot more tricky. Just run around the field and just go for pop shots the entire time. Just go for pop shots. Whatever your aim, whatever the game decides to auto aim at, go for it. Who cares if it's the chopper? Fine. If it's the jetpack guys, fine. But you want to be consistently moving at all times and consistently mashing that aim button, so that way you can get some good shots in. Of course, also, if you do happen to shoot the jetpacks themselves, as in like the machine and not just the enemy, you can typically get like an insta kill out of it too. So try to go for that. Try to break the jetpacks themselves. And at any point in time that you're really low on health, you can always go for a level 2 upgrade, because that's definitely something I would recommend doing for this fight, because this fight gets, you know, pretty damn daunting. Unless you're really good at it, then, you know, of course, don't worry about it. Upgrade your health whenever you feel like it. But this is a recommended health upgrade situation. I usually recommend upgrading your health on boss fights, not, you know, small group enemy fights, because a lot of the time you can kind of get your health back just by, you know, the typical stuff. But yeah, when it comes to helicopter, the manta ray, or manta, whatever it's called itself, it's not that hard. It's a bit tricky at first if you don't know what you're doing, but for the most part, just keep dodging, keep, you know, auto aiming in, and just hoping that it actually shoots the damn missiles. And a lot of the time, the regular machine gun fire and the regular missiles won't hit you if you just keep dodging. So that seems to be the case for me, though. I can't exactly, you know, talk about everybody's personal experience with it. From my experience alone, I have found out that dodging in that fight, for the most part, works out pretty well. So anyway, that's it for this day, and I'll see you guys for the next one. So as always, take care, everybody.